Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Breaking news, WABC.
Well, it's only Tuesday. What are we up to? I mean, President Trump is not speaking to 9 o'clock on Thursday. And what is he up to?
Well,
I don't know.
All I can say is he's up to here with Iran. That is for sure, because today in the White House, John, he was going on and on and on. He's like, I am done with them. I am fed up. And he started the naval blockade.
He's right. Everybody says it. Whatever Iran says, you can't believe anything.
Yes, he said a bunch of liars. He called them a bunch of liars, a bunch of scum. And John, he set up the blockade just about an hour ago on the Strait of Hormuz. And guess what that means? Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. You understand better than anybody. It basically blocks Iran from $400 million a day. $400 million a day of oil coming in and out is not going to be able to move.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Give it, take $1 million.
Spoken like a true billionaire. What do you think?
I mean, I can't believe what a mess we have there.
What a mess. What do you think, Judge Weinberg? I mean, you could see that, and Netanyahu's fed up too.
I think after 47 years, it's about time we grew up.
Yeah, it is about time that we grow up. I can barely hear you. Hold on one second. Let's go to...
You know what scares me is the nuclear issue. I mean, months have gone by now. What have they done? Do we have any intel on what's going on there?
I'm sure I'm sure the Israelis have the intel.
Yeah, and by the way, the Israelis were coming out just a little bit ago, and one of the things that the Israelis were saying, Netanyahu specifically said, if they do some preemptive action, they're saying we're responding. Remember, we've been talking about the retaliation part of it all. But if there is some sort of action, guess what? This will not be some little response from us. This will be bigger than you've ever seen before. And the Israelis, as you know, Craig, have had a history of really pounding them. So Judge Weinberg, they're going to really do some pounding too. They're both fed up.
As they should be. 47 years of a terrorist regime trying to intimidate the world, trying to take over Western civilization, hegemonic, demonic, torture and kill their own people. It's about time. They can't hold us hostage anymore.
But you also need all these other countries need to come on board. And that's what I don't understand. A lot of these countries aren't coming on board with us. I mean, everyone is facing the same fate with Iran and the terrorists.
KT coming on in a few minutes. Yeah. And KT, let's ask her, is NATO on board?
Yeah.
Is there a NATO?
Right. And what are the Arab countries? You know, one of the things I find so interesting, and we talked about this last week, guys, that when there were strikes going on one day, remember, and the U.S. said it's not us, and the Israelis said it's not us, and then there were reports that it was Kuwait, possibly, and Bahrain playing a role in these strikes, because they've taken a lot of incoming. So maybe there's some stuff to everybody's point, Craig, that's going on that we don't realize behind the scenes more than has been reported.
But like the judge said, we need to solve this problem once and for all. This has been going on for way too long. We need to solve it and be able to move on.
Yeah, we definitely do. And obviously, look, we're heading into the midterms. You don't want this roller coaster of a ride heading into the midterms, right? Also, Judge?
Listen, the real problem is who's going to win the long game? The Iranians think they're going to win the long game, that they can outlast us. There'll be a change after the midterm elections. Trump will be weakened. In 2.5 years, Trump will be gone. They'll cut a deal with another weak-kneed person like a Biden or a sellout like Obama. That's what they're playing for. You have to understand how to look at history.
Delay.
Exactly
yes.
Right.
Exactly. That's what it is. And Trump said, listen, I gave him, the one thing was interesting question today in the Oval Office, and he's sitting next to the Iraqi prime minister, the new Iraqi prime minister. But President Trump was asked, do you regret that you lifted the blockade? Because remember, first they had the blockade in place and they lifted it.
I think President Trump is an American that gives people a chance. But you're dealing with lowlifes.
Exactly. And that's what he said. He said, listen, I gave them an opportunity. I've given them a whole bunch. They keep breaking it. So it sounds to me like he's fed up.
Well, he should be by that time.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. One thing, now his version of Fed Up is not like Obama's version of Fed Up.
The short answer is he should have been listening to Rubio and Hegseth all along, because they're the ones who really understood.
Yeah, and Hegseth seems to like, what else do you want me to bomb? And the next place might be this place called Pickaxe Mountain. That's going to be a biggie.
Well, that's the
if
nuclear
they go
site.
That's that like deep embedded.
You have to take that out.
And one of the things I want to ask, because also we not only have KT coming up, we got Dershowitz, we've got Todd Lyons, we've got James Langford. We also have
Senator Langford from Oklahoma. What is he going to be talking about?
He's going to be talking about his dear friend Senator Graham, and also his perspective of what Congress needs to do with Russian sanctions and also with Iran.
You have Admiral
Harwood. I can't wait to ask him what he thinks about Pickaxe Mountain. Like, how do you get to this? Because apparently it's really deep embedded, like the bunker buster bombs that we used on the other ones before.
You also have Bruce Blakeman that's going to talk about 545. That's going to talk about there's 12 blocks of
11th Avenue, John. 11th Avenue,
encampment.
and it's growing by the day. By the way, they're putting in electricity in the encampment to make it nice for them.
Do they have any
air conditioning too?
Yeah, do they have a restaurant?
That's right. And all the Pellegrino they want with wedges of lime is to be perfect.
Wait, they're putting in what? They're putting in
electricity.
Oh my goodness.
But where are they getting it from?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it?
You know, they could have extension cords, but where are they plugging the extension cord into?
I mean, this is crazy.
Maybe into the Intrepid. Who knows?
And then I understand there's a vote at the city council tomorrow on the horses in Central Park. So we're going to be going to Christina Hansen. We're going to go to Central Park and get a report on the horses in Central Park.
And I love the horses. They're so
it's
beautiful.
It's part of the ambiance of New York.
It is. Everybody who comes, every time we have a tourist friend who comes in and says, "Oh, I want to take a horse ride."
Central Park.
It's so classic.
Yeah.
It is.
They've
It's so classic.
Is KT on yet?
She is on.
Let's go to KT.
Yeah, KT, former Deputy National Security Advisor under President Trump. KT, first of all, the blockade just went into effect literally about an hour ago there on the Strait of Hormuz. Your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. And if you think of what's happened in the last month when we've had the ceasefire and now that we've resumed attacks, first of all, President Trump understood they were going to break the ceasefire. So he held back about 15-20% of the target list. Now he can go after that target list. The second thing that's happened in this intervening several-week period is that the United States now exports 30% more crude oil than it did before, so that the United States is now exporting more crude oil, more refined oil, more liquefied natural gas than any other country in the world, not by 1 or 2%, but by 20, 30%. We now own the global energy industry. And that's the real sort of takeaway from President Trump's Iran war. And in the meantime, Iran's nuclear capability has been destroyed, and if Pickaxe Mountain does have something, fine, we'll bomb that. And if they try to rebuild their nuclear sites, fine, we'll bomb those again. I think at this point he's so fractured. President Trump's actions have so scrambled the leadership of Iran between the IRGC, the guys who want no deal with nobody anytime, they're going to sabotage everything, and then the guys who really run the country, the civilian people who know that they've got to have 91 million people. They got a country to run. So he's weakened their regime to the point where it's now going to be up to the Iranian people. What do you guys want to do? And I think that the whole thing has just been brilliant because we're going to, look, I started working for Henry Kissinger when I was in my late teens, early 20s. That Strait of Hormuz has bedeviled everybody for 50 years because Iran or Saudi Arabia has always used it as a blackmail and leverage. President Trump has eliminated it as a blackmail and leverage point.
What did you see this, KT? It's interesting because originally President Trump talked about this 20% toll. And then he said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do what he calls a reimbursement fee with trade and investment deals. He says that the Gulf states are going to make into the United States. In other words, they'll contribute to America. But it's an interesting idea. What do you make of that, and how does that work? What, they're going to build a plant somewhere or do something?
Yeah, so in the very beginning of the first term, President Trump, we have this understanding that we would keep the strait open, we would protect the countries, the Gulf Arab countries, we would protect Israel, and he kept saying, we're getting nothing for it. Why don't they pay us for? These are really rich countries. Why should we pay to defend them? to protect them.
Now, what does it cost, KT, a month or a week to have one aircraft carrier and its accompanying destroyers?
Well, look, John, the aircraft carriers are going to be someplace. So if they're not in that region, they're in another part of the world. So they're already going to be afloat. But, it's $1 trillion defense budget. You figure out what's the percentage of that puts forward basing in the region, that has the Armada there for an extended period of time. It's probably, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. So what does that mean to the countries, the wealthy countries in the Gulf? President Trump has finally gotten what he really wanted in the first place, was he wanted the Gulf Arabs to pay for us to defend you. And that's exactly what he's gotten. I never thought that 20% toll thing, that didn't make any sense to me when he announced it yesterday on Truth Social. What does make a lot of sense is Trump getting those Gulf Arab countries to pay for the defense, to pay us to help defend themselves. Now, are they going to donate it to the U.S. Treasury? No, they're going to invest in America, and that's what's even more significant. It ties our economies closer together. It's prosperous for both of us, where it's a win-win. And we're now going to see, my guess is we're going to see an additional $500 billion of investment. As Rita said, are they going to build factories? You bet they are. They're going to build tech stuff, and we're going to invest in them as well. We'll build American tech in their countries. But again, this is the Abraham Accords on steroids. We are now going to, as President Trump said when he went to Saudi Arabia the second time, we're going to trade technology for terrorism, and we're going to trade consumption and consumerism and trade for terror and chaos. And so this is the Trump doctrine, right? We'll defend you, but we want to have an economic relationship with you, which far outlasts any temporary arrangement that you might have with another country. When they're physically and financially invested in you, you don't go to war.
Yeah, no, it's the art of the deal, I guess, if you will. Judge Weinberg.
KT, I want to ask you about this report that I just saw about two members of the Islamic State group had a problem in Iran. If they were executed after they had an insurrection against Iran.
Right.
What is that about? I don't understand the politics of that. Can you explain that?
Iran, I think, from what I can tell, the leadership of Iran is in chaos. There's no one person speaking for Iran. And so the IRGC and the Basij, which is there's kind of volunteer guys. They're patrol guys who, the thugs. They're basically the thugs who patrol the streets. They're looking for anybody they can to arrest and execute. Those are the guys who killed the 30,000 Iranian protesters that came to the streets. I think you're going to see an awful lot more challenges to the regime. They're going to come from civilians. They're going to come from splinter groups. You're just going to see more of it because it's chaotic. This is not a strong leadership. The fractured leadership is not a strong leadership. At the end of the day, I think it'll end up being a slow rolling coup to people who will work for us.
If I was running the CIA or whatever, one of those intelligence divisions, I would have fed 30,000 guns to the rest of the groups.
Here's the thing. I always thought it was a pretty half-baked idea. So one of the theories was that you would arm certain groups in Iran that then would somehow attack the Iranian government. First of all, it never got off the ground, in part because it was the Kurds. They wanted to arm the Kurds.
Turkey shot down the Kurds idea.
Now, Turkey says, no, the Kurds, if you give those Kurds guns, they're going to come after us. Don't arm the Kurds. What I do think will happen, and interestingly, President Trump has never targeted two groups, guys in uniforms. He's never targeted the regular Iranian army, the ones who preceded the Revolutionary Guard, and he's not targeted the regular police forces. He has targeted the IRGC, and he has targeted the Basij. These are all people who work for the, quote, mullahs, the Revolutionary Guard. So I think that what he's done is he's sort of laid the groundwork that if things get bad enough domestically, there are guys with guns in Iran who could then work with the civilian leadership to, slow rolling coup to get rid of the bad guys. This is like in Lebanon. He's doing the same thing in Lebanon. It's the same thing he did in Gaza, where he knows that there are groups you want to have somebody with guns, but you want to get those guys with the guns to get rid of the bad guys with the guns.
Let them
that's
take back
simplistic.
their own country.
That's exactly what he's going to do. We're not going to put American boots on the ground.
No, never.
He's going to enable them to do it themselves.
Yeah, but like you said, the enabling is the key. Because one of the other things we were talking about now, the Kurds too. He was hoping. It sounded like that he was hoping the Kurds would at one point, but then he was disappointed because of what we just talked about exactly with Turkey.
Was it the Kurds' fault, or was it the fact that we backed off helping the Kurds because of Turkey?
Right, and then he said, and I was hoping some other groups. And then the other thing he also said, he hinted that like he got some guns to some group, maybe the Kurds, and somehow it didn't end that they kept them. So you got to make sure they actually get to the people who need them.
Yeah, KT, speaking of Turkey, people are not paying attention to how dangerous Erdogan is and the fact that he's an Islamist, that he believes in the domination of Islamist theology and politics. And he could be the successor to Iran and be a very powerful one. He's got a great military. Your thoughts?
I mean, I've been in a room with negotiating with Erdogan. He's a really scary guy. I think he's an opportunist. And I think that he's found a way to work with President Trump, and as President Trump says, everything I've asked him for, he's done. We have this impression of Turkey right now in Erdogan, which is an accurate one, Judge, as you've just articulated. But what if you had a switch? What if somehow Erdogan and Turkey joined the Abraham Accords? I think we'd feel very differently about Turkey. And that would be the best result, to have Turkey, a powerful Turkey, but a Turkey on our side, a Turkey obviously in its own interest, but a Turkey working on the parallel agenda for ours.
Yeah, but his pronouncements are he's going to march into Jerusalem.
He just said it recently, right?
Yeah, but Judge, here's the thing. That guy changes, his allegiances faster than a high school girl changes her boyfriend's.
Wait.
That's very serious stuff, KT.
How did you know about my high school years, KT? Wait a minute.
Oh, Rita, a lot of people. Anyway, no, but Erdogan used to be very close to Israel. Now Erdogan is not. Erdogan wanted to have Turkey be part of the European Union, and the European Union said, no, you're Muslim. We don't want you part of our club. And so then Erdogan turned to the Muslim world, and he said, well, I want to be a leader of the Muslim world. And now he's bumping up against other countries in the Muslim world, UAE and others, wealthy, powerful, militarily strong. I don't have a lot of problem if Erdogan is working with President Trump under President Trump's leadership, not as an independent operator, but under President Trump's leadership, and if President Trump can bring him along. Remember, Erdogan was one of the first signatories of the Gaza peace deal. That peace deal would not have happened without Erdogan's assistance. And now, how often have we talked about Gaza and Hamas? Not at all. We haven't heard a peep. Why? Because there's peace there and it's working.
Right. Keep even if they're sort of questionable allies close. Is a good message.
Rita, you don't make deals with your best friends. Negotiations are often with not very nice guys.
Yep.
You just want to win the negotiation.
Yeah, no, bottom line, you're right. You are right. KT, thank you. We love having you. Thank you, KT.
Pleasure.
Thank you, KT.
Thank you. And you guys, let's go to Professor Alan Dershowitz. Professor Dershowitz, boy, oh boy, I was watching today some of the hearings. And this was rare. I mean, this is very unusual to see Supreme Court justices testifying. And it was Amy Coney Barrett and Elena Kagan who are testifying side by side to talk about some of the threats that they are dealing with and their families. Amy Coney Barrett talking about this time where her son stumbled upon her bulletproof vest in the bedroom. I mean, is this the reality they have to live in, sadly?
Yeah, we saw what happened with Justice Kavanaugh. Somebody tried to assassinate him. We've seen other attempts in the past. Look, Elena Kagan was my poker buddy. I used to play poker with her on Thursday nights when she was a professor at Harvard Law School and I was a professor. And, she's a regular guy. I mean, she loves to go out. She loves to go to ball games. She loves to mingle with people, and she's vulnerable. I don't know Amy Barrett. But she also, she's a family woman with kids, and these are regular people, and they deserve to be protected. Anybody who is on a hit list, whether it's the kind of hit list that the Iranians have, the kind of hit list that others have had, needs protection. I have a friend who's 24/7 being protected by the Canadian Royal Mounted Police because there's a fatwa out on him from the Iranian leaders. these are terrible times. I've needed protection from time to time because I've had people threatening me. At least in my case, I have people threatening me on both sides. So, I'm an equal opportunity target.
Is that a compliment?
So all you have to do is duck and let them shoot at each other.
Yeah. So, these are dangerous times. And I have an article that I wrote recently in which I said, these people who are calling for intifada, the next step is to join and become complicit. That's what happened in the 1970s when I represented some radicals, and some of them, became murderers. Kathy Boudin assisted in murdering 2 policemen. We know others who have participated in murder. So, the jihadists are one step away from the people who call for Palestine will be free or bring the intifada here. They're only one step away from being terrorists themselves, and we see it on both sides. We saw, right-wing attacks on synagogues, left-wing attacks, and we have to be on our guard. And I'm glad that they had those hearings, and I'm glad that they are taking precautions.
Professor Dershowitz, did you see the DSA platform that they're putting out this week? It's all anti-Israel, but it's also police. It's really frightening. It's no prisons. Don't deport anybody, even if they have like a murder, record. I mean, it's really frightening. And what is your reaction with they seem so bold that they're actually putting it out and it seems like just lunacy.
Well, and lead editorial in today's New York Times says the problem with the Democrats, they're not left enough. They have to become the party of Sanders, OAC, the Squad, and it would have been Flatner a couple of weeks ago. And so there's a movement to make the Democrats even more radical, to move from socialism to communism, which is not a big step. But these people want the United States to become Cuba. The only people who don't want them are the Cubans, because they know what happened in Cuba, whether they be Cuban Americans or Cuban Cubans. So, if you want to know the answer to democratic socialism, talk to people who live in socialist countries, and they'll tell you 2 things. 1, it's not democratic, and 2, socialism doesn't work economically. So the Democrats are shooting themselves in the foot, and they're now shooting themselves in other parts of their body if they think that by moving hard left, they're going to get more votes. But, there are idiots who will vote for them, including many of my Jewish friends and colleagues who think they're being cool because they're voting for Mamdani, a socialist. Mamdani called Jews monsters. Monster is a term that was used repeatedly by Hitler and Goering and Goebbels. They portrayed Jews in their propaganda as monsters. And their message was, what do you do to monsters? You kill them, of course. They're not human, they're monsters. And when Mamdani used that word monsters to describe AIPAC, by which he meant Jews, he disqualified himself from ever being a leader of any country or any city.
Professor Suozzi is taking charge of common sense Democrats against the socialists. Is that real? What do you hear from your sources?
My sources are that there are people within the Democratic Party who are trying to fight back, but they are losing because they're not cool, because the kids, the young people, are attracted to radicalism. Let's remember who brought Hitler to power. Young students at the University of Munich, the University of Heidelberg. Who brought Castro to power? Students. Who brought Stalin to power? Students. Who brought Mao to power? Students. So when you have students who are often just total ignoramuses of history, pushing hard, they're potentially the future. And that's why we have to be so frightened. That's why I left the Democrats. That's why I joined the Republicans. That's why, I wrote this book I'm working on now called Why I Left the Dems and So Should You. There's no future for anybody who's decent within the Democratic Party unless the Democratic Party changes and once again becomes the party of Bill Clinton or some of the other people who are moderates. But we're not seeing that happening in the Democrats now.
Craig Eaton.
Professor, I just want to answer John's question. Tom Suozzi's a smart politician, and he sees an opening here. And he sees that if he goes far left, he's going to lose. He's got a challenger. He's got a young guy who I know is running against him, who's really hitting him hard. So he's smart now. He's saying, let me go, back to the Democratic Party, stay away from the DSA. And I think that'll help him in that election.
I hope. We'll see. Remember, too, one of the problems is the primary system. There are so few people who come out to vote in primaries, and therefore a very well-organized, tight-knit group like Social Democrats can bring out enough people. Remember, OAC won her vote by a very small number of people voting, and the same thing has been true of some of the others. So once you get large amounts of people voting, I think the DSA will lose its support.
Very quickly, Judge. Really quick.
Alan, just quickly, what do you think about open primaries as a resolution of that problem?
It's a small resolution of the problem. I think we have to have better systems than primaries, because if we're going to have primaries, we have to have more and more and more people voting. Right now, primaries are like, smoke-filled rooms. Smoke-filled rooms, you'd have 50 people determining the outcome. Now we have, 5,000 people. But it's still not democracy.
Yeah,
wow.
Great points. Well, Professor Dershowitz,
keep fighting.
Thank
because
you so much.
We depend on you to keep fighting so we could.
I depend on you. So let's fight together.
We fight side by side.
You got it.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much. And John, we're going to take a quick break because there's a big update with ICE. They are now being told, ICE agents, not to use traffic stops temporarily. That's a big deal. We're going to talk to the former acting ICE director right after the break.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC. Breaking news, WABC.
Well, we are back.
Yes, and boy, John, there's a lot of big changes. It just came out a little bit ago. Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen is now ordering an end, at least short term, to traffic stops for ICE.
Well, you're going to have a problem because these guys have guns, they have drugs, and when you stop them, they panic.
Yeah, they panic or they use the vehicle to run over agents.
Let's go to our former
acting ICE director.
Yes.
I agree. Who better than Todd Lyons to talk about all this? And Mr. Director, it's great to have you. What do you think about this? Because how else are you going to stop them, especially in sanctuary cities where they're not getting handed over by the local authorities?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me. That's one of the big issues, right? Obviously, traffic stops is one of the main arrest tools options that ICE officers and special agents have to effectuate those arrests, because sanctuary jurisdictions, we just can't get those individuals because they won't turn them over to us, right? We have elected officials telling folks not to open the door for ICE agents, right? They don't have authority to go in. You have other elected officials who are causing the problem with these individuals ramming ICE agents, telling, folks to actively resist ICE officers, to resist arrest. So it's very tough for those, agents and officers. They're in high stress situations as it is. They're going against some of the worst of the worst. I feel for them. It's going to be tough for them now, but I can see the secretary's point. He has to take care of the men and women of ICE. These people aren't stopping. They're using their vehicles as weapons. I've been talking to you guys for, over 16 months now when I was in the chair, and it just ramped up more and more and putting officers and agents in harm. And, these tactics have to stop. And I applaud the secretary for keeping the safety of the men and women of ICE as his number one priority.
Yeah, and it's so dangerous for them already to be out there, and they're in this moment. And if somebody has a vehicle, we've seen time and time again. I mean, vehicle is a deadly weapon, right?
It's a dangerous instrumentality.
And if he has a gun in the car and he's going to reach for it, well, you're going to have a confrontation.
Right, or he steps on it, like how about in the case where we've seen
on the gas and hit an officer,
right,
and maim them or kill them,
right? And you got an officer saying stop, who's standing in front of the car, and you step on the gas. How else are you supposed to read that?
Yeah, you know what? The other thing too is, what we've seen in a lot of these instances, too, is sometimes it may not be the target, but it might be someone who has overstayed their visa or has been in the country decades, who didn't take the opportunity to become a U.S. citizen or, adjust their status the right proper way. But instead, they want to go ahead and they want to flee. They want to use that, 4,000, 5,000-pound vehicle as a weapon. For what reason? I mean, there's just no reason to resist law enforcement officers to put your own life in danger like that. It's ridiculous. But again, unfortunately, they're listening to the rhetoric of some of our elected officials that not only are putting ICE officers and the general public in, harm's way, but they're also putting the illegal immigrant in harm's way because they think they're doing the right thing.
They're creating a situation.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it's really sad for everyone involved.
Well, what percentage of those stops, they have something illegal in the car and they panic?
Well, all the time, and that's the thing. A traffic stop for any law enforcement officer, whether it's a federal agent or NYPD officer or New York State trooper, walking up to that car, you don't know who you're encountering, right? You could have some poor kid who has an issue with his driver's license, or you could have someone that just, committed a mass murder who has, weapons in the car. You just don't know, and that's the most scariest time for a law enforcement officer. So those traffic stops are a real immediate action situation for the men and women of ICE in all law enforcement offices.
Thank you so much for coming on. And you have something, Craig?
I was just going to say, when we used to have stop, question, and frisk here in New York City, it's the same exact concept. The police were able to approach people either in a car, walking on a street, and they would find so many illegal guns and drugs and arrest people with outstanding warrants. It's an opportunity. It gives law enforcement an opportunity to weed out all of these criminals that are on the street that are just running around. And this is the same thing with ICE.
Right. And, you have the opportunity to stop crime. You have the opportunity to encounter people who have come into this country before, because we always encounter is when you have one criminally illegal alien, you have other ones that hang out with them. And we're identifying more and more that came in through the open, porous border under the last administration, those 4 years. So it's given us the opportunity to encounter more of the individuals we're looking for.
And take them off the streets. And take them off the streets and put them where they belong.
100%. And to take the traffic stops away, that's going to be a big hurdle for us to kind of make a dent in those criminal illegal aliens in our community.
Yeah, 100%. Well,
thank you for coming on.
Yeah, Director Lyons, thank you so much. It's always so great to talk with you. Thank you.
And when we
Great
come
talking
back,
to you guys.
We're going to take a break, or we're going to do a top news of the day, and it's sponsored by somebody I know.
Yeah, it's sponsored by the greatest supermarkets ever. It is sponsored by Gristedes Supermarket. So now let's go to the hot news of the day, because that's one of the great places ever.
It's the top news of the day. Sponsored by Gristedes Supermarkets. Here's Rita Cosby.
And John, as we have been talking about, President Trump has reinstated the U.S. naval blockade of Iran's ports that just went into effect about an hour ago. But he's also pivoted away from a plan that would have charged 20% fee on shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. He's going to instead pursue investment deals with Middle East countries. And also, as we know, our dear friend Lindsey Graham, as we know, passed away over the weekend. His sister, Darlene Graham, has now just been sworn in as South Carolina's interim senator. And Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa administered the oath in the Senate chamber. As we know, Lindsey Graham passed away, and they believe, of heart disease. What a sad, sad situation, John.
Very sad.
Yep. And you guys, when we come back, we're going to take a break. We're going to go to Oklahoma. We're going to talk to somebody else who knew Senator Graham well, Senator James Lankford, to talk about that and also Iran and so much more.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain, and the waving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain.
Well, let's go to Oklahoma.
Absolutely. Let's go to Senator James Lankford. And Senator, we love that song and we love you.
Just makes my heart go pitter-patter every time I think about that being broadcast across New York City.
Yeah, and across the world. Right, across the world, right. Yeah. Senator, let's first talk about, if we could, about Senator Lindsey Graham. I know you knew the senator well. We loved Lindsey. We had him here on the show many times. And today, boy, it was so emotional for me to watch. I can't imagine what was going through your mind when his sister was officially sworn in to take a seat, like an interim placeholder.
Yeah, very emotional for all of us. All of us were very close to Lindsey. He literally, where my desk is on the Senate floor, his desk is directly in front of mine. And so Monday and Tuesday morning, this morning, there was a black drape and white roses sitting on that in remembrance of Lindsey. And then those were taken off this afternoon, and his sister took that seat I cannot imagine the emotion for her as she still is planning his funeral to also be sitting in his seat on the Senate floor. But it's a very, very emotional thing. It's a huge loss for the country. I mean, he was a passionate advocate for Israel in a time that the socialist left is now saying they want to ignoring Israel and they don't want to have anything to do with it. Lindsey was outspoken in support for Israel. He was fighting hard to be able to get peace in Ukraine, was very involved in a lot of foreign affairs from his long time leading the foreign relations. But he was just an outspoken advocate for every issue. You didn't have to ask Lindsey twice his opinion. He had one on everything, and he was always very smart and engaged.
It's so hard to believe that he's gone. I mean, it's just what a difference a day makes, what a difference 3 days makes. I mean, he was live and well on Friday.
And young guy.
Yep, and vibrant, doing the press conference in Ukraine.
71 years old, a young guy.
And
he was definitely a young 71, was very active, worked all the time, and the man constantly worked. Now, I have to tell you, he hated getting up early, but he didn't mind working till 1 or 2 in the morning, and he was always working.
Wow. What was it like when his sister came in and took his seat today? What was the reaction there? Kind of take us inside that moment.
She was sworn in by Chuck Grassley, who's the president pro tem of the Senate. And then as soon as she signed the book, which is the official register that every senator has signed that book, she turned around. The entire chamber, all 99 others, stood and applauded for her. And it was just long bipartisan applause. It was the response of a lot of people saying, we grieve with you and we miss Lindsey, but we also support you and what you're doing. I mean, it was a very strong, good moment for the country to be able to affirm her and then watch her come over and take her seat. And then when she came over to the seat, there was a line of people, both sides of the aisle, that lined up to come over, introduce themselves, and to say, thinking about you, praying for you. This is a tough role, but glad you're here.
You know, one of the moments that I saw you guys too today was they did a big press conference with a lot of the senators, and they talked about the Russia sanctions. That was the last thing Lindsey Graham talked about over there in Ukraine, and apparently that's the last thing he talked about with President Trump. And there was some word that they may unveil these and sort of name them after Lindsey Graham. This talk about where that's headed and how his legacy is going to live on in so many ways.
It'll live on in a lot of ways, just in what he was working to do with the Abraham Accords in the Middle East and what he was working on, the final project there. Really 2 final projects for him. One was trying to deal with sanctions on Russia, and the focus is countries that are still buying oil and natural gas from Russia, they know they are funding weapon systems that are murdering Ukrainians. They know it. And so the response from the United States should be, we're going to sanction your trade and put tariffs on you directly on it of a much higher rate. If you are funding the war in Ukraine, you are perpetuating this. You could not buy this stuff from Russia. And as soon as you stopped, the war would stop because their money would run out, because Russia's really just a giant gas station. Everybody sees Russia as a huge country, and they are geographically large, but their economy is the size of Texas. So they don't have the big national economy like what we have. It's significant because the Texas economy, don't get me wrong, is not small. But as a nation, you look at it and say they can't sustain this war if they weren't able to sell their oil and gas. So that's a way to help bring this to an end. That was a big issue Lindsey was working on.
Tell us about the pulse of what's going on in Washington with all the decisions that we have to make with Ukraine and with Iran and with Lebanon. Give us the pulse of most of the senators.
Yeah, it's a real mix right now, John. I tell you, because my Democrat colleagues here, they don't want us to be involved in Iran at all right now. So we tried to advance onto what's called the National Defense Authorization, which is a bill we've done every year for 65 years. It's typically a bipartisan bill. It came out of committee bipartisan, but when we tried to start it today, all Democrats voted against it and just said, we're not going to get on this until we're not battling anything in Iran. And so that becomes an issue. We're trying to get on appropriation bills on it, and we're stuck on that because my Democratic colleagues want a lot more spending in some areas, and so we're stuck in that area. So we're trying
is there
to
any Republican senators?
Get done.
Is there any Republican senators that are giving you grief?
Giving us grief about what issue? Because
just moving forward with the vote.
No, not for the National Defense Authorization or appropriations or those bills. Those are things we've got to get done. That's just basic responsibilities of the country. We've got to be able to get that done. Now, we are still working to try to get Save America Act done. I tell you, I'm in one of those states that has voter ID and think it's pretty common sense, and it works. And there's 36 states that already have voter ID. I don't see an issue with the other 14 states coming on board with the other 36 and just doing a basic ID check on it. We're still trying to be able to work through to get that done as well.
Judge Weinberg?
Senator, on a different level, the Democratic Socialists of America have just announced they want to abolish the presidency of the United States and the United States Senate. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts are there's a place they can go that they can actually enjoy that same kind of luxury, and it's called Cuba. There are a lot of folks that actually go to Florida. If they can just keep going south to Cuba, they'd find a government just like that. The socialism that they're promoting and the dictatorial leadership works really well if you're in the leadership, and for everybody else it doesn't. So when they say those statements, and I've heard them say that, it should remind the American people that the Democratic Socialists don't want to tweak America. They want to get rid of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They want to rewrite the entire country and put it in their image. And that is not where America is.
Well, Senator, thank you very, very much. Really great to have you here. Senator James Langford from the great state of Oklahoma. And we're so sorry for your loss, for America's loss, the world's loss with Lindsey Graham. It's really great to have you here.
It's a big loss. I've literally had leaders all around the world that have texted me in the last couple of days saying, hey, Lindsey was important to us as well.
Wow.
And so it is a loss for the world. So keep praying for the nation. We got a lot to get done.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you so much. And speaking of a lot to get done, what's going on in Iran? We know that the blockade was just set up by the U.S. Just about an hour and a half or so ago. And joining us now to talk about this and so much more is Admiral Robert Harwood. The Admiral is a Vice Admiral. He's a retired U.S. Navy SEAL. He was also former Deputy Commander of the United States Central Command. And understands that part of the world. He actually grew up in Iran and went to school in Tehran. So who better than him? Admiral, really great to have you. Well, first of all, let's talk about this new blockade, which is going to really affect Iran. Obviously, they're losing, I think it's $400 million a day. How big of an impact is this going to be? And is this the squeeze play we need right now on them?
Huge. But it's just another first step. So much more can be done. And I think, as the senator talked about in his strategy with Russia, economies and money matters. So by shutting down the blockade, we shut down their oil. But there's more things we can do to build economic pressure on them. Shut down their airspace. Try to go down and shut down their borders so they can't move. And we could do that either politically with working with Pakistan, Azerbaijan, Turkey, or we could do that militarily by striking avenues which are very
Admiral, will you call us right back? Because we're losing you a little bit. We have a bad connection. Will you call us right back?
Well, you called me, so
so we're going to call you. We're going to call you right back. And in the meantime, you guys, we'll wait and see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with this and how Iran responds. That's going to be interesting.
Well, they've been responding by attacking other Arab nations.
Yeah, exactly.
That's their response.
Yeah, and they've said any action against us will be deemed as a threat. Like they're, everything is as they're blaming it on us. So you're right. Will they step up their attacks on these Arab nations?
That's their desperate habits.
Yeah. The question is how much of them are left? That's the other thing too. I mean, you've got so many of these IRGC folks all over the place. It sounds like President Trump's going to take some pretty dramatic action in addition to this blockade.
They have to cut off all their ability to have access to munitions, and they have to take out as many of the IRGC as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And joining us, we have back with us Admiral Robert Harwood. Admiral, sorry about that. We had a bad connection there. But, what do you think of this blockade?
I think it's brilliant. I think exactly what we should do. We should be taking out all their economic power, deprive them of any revenue in every way we can, to not only undermine the regime, but to support the people who are looking for a different government that's going to use those resources for them. So go for it. Over the last month, they were able to move about 55 million barrels of oil. So they got some revenue back in their coffers. We've got to go back and cut that off now, as CENTCOM is doing.
Is any of our allies, not allies, is any of our enemies supplying them with money? Because they're going to be they should be running out of money.
Well, you're exactly right. It's not just money. I think China needs the oil, so that was their biggest source of revenue. Are they going to be willing to give them money? I don't think so, but they may give them. We believe they were giving them surface-to-air missiles, Stingers, military hardware, and the same thing with Russia because they're like-minded autocratic states, and that's part of the issue why we have to undermine Iran, because it's as much about Russia and China is Iran. So that's one of why this is geopolitically so important to move to an end state of a different government in Iran.
The big question is, how long is it going to take, obviously? And these people are zealots. That's the thing. And you understand them. What are your thoughts, Admiral, when you think about sort of the mindset of the Iranian people, and particularly the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, that they've taken a lot of pounding and they're still ticking?
Well, here's the issue. They've had 3 decades, and they really started when they came to power. The country went to war right off the bat. Iraq invaded Iran right after the Islamic Revolution. So that gave them a 9-year war to build this nationalistic view behind the Islamic Revolution. But since then, for 3 decades, they have failed the country economically, and the people have suffered before that. And they've gone to the streets time and time again, and the IRGC has just murdered them in the streets at scale. So it's a clear indicator of how many people are opposed to the regime but don't have the wherewithal, the assets, be it guns or other assets, to be able to undermine tax regime.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we let you go, Admiral Robert Harward, the Pickaxe Mountain thing is the kind of big deal. President Trump just said a little bit ago, we're going after Pickaxe Mountain. Nothing they can do about it. That's that mountain that's supposed to be so fortified, so deep. And there's some reports that even the bombers that we used, remember when we hit the other nuclear sites last June, that those bombers might not be effective even on a place like Pickaxe Mountain because it's so deep and it's so entrenched. So how do we get to it?
Well, 2 things, and I've worked this problem for issues. The Iranians know those are building granite. They're deep. They're not accessible, but we can bomb it so no one has access to it. And more importantly, these locations are geographically isolated, so we can also take out anyone going to or from the facilities. So the bottom line, we can make it inaccessible for the government of Iran until they agree to hand over the material, and we would then have the wherewithal to recover that material. So that's one of the objectives of this, of the whole campaign plan. So yes, the president, as he has said very astutely, with the military power we have, we can do anything we want to do inside Iran militarily, and there's nothing they can really do about it.
Admiral, how heavy of the bombs can we hit that mountain with?
Well, we got all the sort of bombs. The main part is penetrators. How deep can the bombs go, and what sort of damage can they do deep in these bunkers? We know we were able to take out a vast majority of their cascades, the material, the stuff they use to enrich material, but getting at the materials are different. So we're limited in the depth of those things, but anything above the ground remains at risk, and you need both of those to make their programs work.
Well, Admiral, thank you so much for coming on, and let's pray for America. Let's pray that we end it soon, and let's pray that Iranians come to common sense and They haven't yet, but let's pray they do.
Let's hope it all works out well. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral, very much. And you guys, now let's go to Bruce Blakeman, of course, the Republican candidate for governor of New York, the nominee there. And we love Bruce. Bruce, you have been raising the alarm about these like blocks long. I think it's 11 blocks, right?
12 blocks,
oh, 12
11th
now.
Avenue.
Okay, 12 blocks, 11th Avenue of this homeless encampment right outside of the beautiful Intrepid Museum. And the judge was just telling me, Bruce, you probably know this, there's electricity. They have electricity. I mean, I'm wondering, do they have restaurants? Do they have, how could this be in the biggest, best city in the world?
Well, it's a disgrace. And basically, Zohran Mamdani and Kathy Hochul are turning New York City into a third world country, just like they're doing with the state. And this is indicative of the fact that they are not looking out for the local communities. They're not looking out for the people that live in those communities. They're not looking out for the store owners that have to do business in those communities. Basically, they have this wild ideology thinking that by letting people set up homeless encampments throughout New York City, taking over communities, that this is somehow, some way is the right thing to do and that it's compassionate. It's not compassionate. Most of these people in the homeless camps need help. They have emotional illnesses. They need treatment for drugs and alcohol. They need services. And sometimes you have to push people into those situations where they can get help, not leave them out there on their own, on the street, actually nurturing them to live on the street and destroying neighborhoods. It's an absolute disgrace.
Judge Weinberg.
Bruce, it becomes an epidemic of crime. There's crime is reported, there's drug dealing, there's prostitution. Also, you have the spread of disease from the encampments to the larger city. This is a public health disaster. When they allowed it to happen in San Francisco, diseases were reappearing that hadn't been heard of since the Middle Ages. How do we stop this?
Well, first of all, when I become governor, I will stop it immediately. I would have the state health department come in there, and they would immediately close down that operation, and we would have alternatives already in place. That's what a good leader does, has options on how we can help these people. Because, as I said, most people that are homeless have severe emotional issues, and we need to treat them. We need to find out what their issues are. Are they substance abuse? Are they alcoholism? Or is it emotional illness? Because normal people don't choose to live on the street. And we never get to the root cause of the problem and try to solve it. We do things like Zohran Mamdani does, not we, but they do things like Zohran Mamdani and Kathy Hochul in the interest of appearing to be ultra-liberal, progressive, and compassionate. Let the people do whatever they want, wherever they want, and the hell with the rest of everybody else. That's just poor leadership.
Bruce, this is Craig Eaton. You know what we need to do when we get you in the governor's mansion? We need to also work to change the laws, the bail laws, the discovery laws, which allow these criminals to stay on the streets of New York City. I mean, they've made it so hard. They need to take the handcuffs off of the judges, the prosecutors, and the police officers.
Well said, Craig. Let me tell you something. Every community I go to around the state, doesn't matter whether it's in the southern tier, western New York, the Capital District, the North Country, the Hudson Valley, Long Island, or New York City, everybody is coming up to me and saying, why do we not allow judges to have the discretion on whether to hold somebody on bail based on the past standard, which has been in effect for over 100 years? A, is that person a flight risk? Or B, is that person a danger to society? Judge Weinberg knows that standard very well. It works very well. Have there been situations in the past where there was a neglect on the part of a judge with respect to monitoring the bail status of somebody who stole the backpack and was in jail for over a year. That is something that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What you do is you try and correct that situation. I've said all along to the cashless bail people, I've said, listen, let's give the judges back to discretion, but let's make the judges every 15 to 20 days have the defendants come back before the judge and reevaluate the situation to make sure that some kid who stole a backpack, who couldn't post $500 in bail, isn't sitting in jail for a year and a half. There is a solution to the problem that's common sense, but they don't want to hear common sense. This is a political, ideological issue with them, whereby they want to give criminals more rights than victims.
Well,
that's not safe for New Yorkers.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Bruce, we need a safe New York, and we need a quality of life in New York. And thank you for everything you do in Nassau County, making it the safest county in the United States of America. And hopefully, somebody will make New York State the safest state in America.
I will do that, John. We're going to win this race. People want common sense, and they want a normal way of living, and they want security and safety in their community. So I'm confident that I will be the next governor, and I assure you I will do everything in my power to make it the safest state in the United States of America. May God bless you guys.
God bless you.
Thank you,
Bruce.
You too, Bruce. We love you, Bruce. Thank you.
Let's take a break, and then we're going to go to Central Park.
Yes, afterwards. They're talking about the horse carriages. We got to save the horse carriages.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
John, when you're in the park, especially Central Park, we love the horses.
I love those horses. I love it's traditional for the last, 100 years? Ask Christina.
Absolutely. They are beautiful. And let's go to Christina, John. Let's go to Christina Hansen. She drives her beautiful horses. She is also a media spokesperson, and she's the shop steward for TWU, the Transit Workers Union, Local 100. It's great to have you here, Christina. Tomorrow, there's a hearing on this bill to ban the horse carriages. What's your message?
Well, the message is, that this is an outrage. The bill that's being heard tomorrow takes everything from the carriage people. It's bad for the carriage drivers and owners. It's bad for the stablemen who will lose their jobs. It's bad for the horses who will lose their homes and their protections promised to them by the city of New York. And it's bad for New York. It's bad for Central Park. It's being done by a bunch of radical animal rights fundamentalists who have been working for decades to try to ban carriage horses from our city.
It's part of the ambiance of Central Park.
Absolutely a part of the ambiance of Central Park. And you know what isn't a part of the ambiance of Central Park? Is the whizzing and whirling and whining of e-bikes flying through the park at 20, 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, and you know what, Christina, I was saying that whenever I have anybody visiting, they want to go see the horses. They want to take a horse ride through the park. Even in the winter, it's so beautiful. It's like a postcard to see them. What do you think the chances are tomorrow? What do you think City Council is going to do?
Well, it's hard to say what they're going to do. Tomorrow's the hearing, so we know what they're going to do. They hopefully will listen. This is a fact-finding mission, presumably. So there's not a vote scheduled, but hopefully the council members will actually get to see the carriage drivers and carriage owners who dedicated their lives to caring for these horses and have acted as stewards of the park by maintaining this tradition. And they'll have to at least look us in the face and tell us that they want to take our businesses from us.
Well, is there anything else we can do tonight?
Well, I think what people need to know is they need to call the Speaker's office. They need to call Lynn Schulman, who's the chair of the Committee on Health, and let them know that New Yorkers want the horses to stay. There's a horrible lie that the animal rights people tell because they are the noisiest, because they're loud and they're angry, but they're a very small minority of people. My experience on the street has been that New Yorkers love the horses, that they want us to stay. And it's important for people to understand, the threat that they're under right now from the animal rights fundamentalists and the big money real estate developers.
Well, as living across the street from Central Park, I love the horses. It's part of, they're beautiful animals. I'd love to walk through Central Park, feed the pigeons, look at the horses, and God bless America. God bless New York.
Yeah, keep us posted, Christina, please.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning.
Yep. Well, we love them, so we're with you. Thank you very much, Christina. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. We very much appreciate it. And you guys, what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
Thanks for listening to Cats and Cosby with John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. You can hear Cats and Cosby weekdays at 5. It's the 5 o'clock show on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?